Hello and welcome to Route 28, making right turns on US 1 because nobody wants to be wrong. I'm L. David Pollock coming to you straight from the free state of Florida, where right turns on red is a rule. Well, he's done it. Ron DeSantis has finally announced his campaign for the nomination of the Republican nomination for the presidency of the United States. I don't know what to tell you. Everyone knows what happened. It was a flop. It was an absolute Elon Musk RUD. And if you don't know what a RUD is, check out my Starship video. I don't know. I forget where I mentioned it, but somewhere in that video, I mentioned what a RUD is. Look, no knock on Elon. He's done some fantastic things, but I think every once in a while he goes ahead and leaps before he looks. And in this particular case, he got some egg on his face. Unfortunately, Ron DeSantis is the one that has to pay the price because that was a horrible campaign announcement. Look, I don't know about you, but you only get one chance to make a first good impression. And I think everybody expected Ron DeSantis on TV behind a podium with his family at his side, making his grand announcement, the thing he's been working for over a year at this point. And what does he do? I don't know. He does a Twitter Spaces deal, and I don't know what. I wasn't the fly on the wall when his campaign and the Twitter, organization, whatever was in charge of this whole deal, got together and figured out, what was going on. I can tell you that I was so puzzled. I couldn't believe that he wasn't on TV because more people have TVs than they do Twitter accounts. And this is his announcement. He's got to introduce himself to the public, to the general public, not the public in Florida. I think that when they came up with this suggestion, they had something going on in the back of their mind, and we'll discuss that in a little bit. But by taking that whole process and making it an audio only announcement, I think that was an attempt to change basically the venue, the format of the campaign for the future. If it worked, then there'd be a lot more audio. It obviously didn't work, and I don't think we're going to see a whole lot more audio. But look, you're not going to take Donald Trump on when it comes to presenting to the public in an extravaganza manner. He doesn't just do announcements; he does extravaganzas, and he's great at it, and he's going to generate a whole lot of interest every time he does one. You're not going to compete with that, so don't. But you still have to reach the public. And doing that through Twitter Spaces just wasn't going to work. Ron DeSantis' comfort zone is behind the podium, talking about policies, taking action, and doing the job. He is not comfortable connecting with people. He's the guy, you know what? If he were your boss, he's the boss that everybody in the entire company would respect. Everyone in the entire company would go to him for advice, ask him what he thinks. Everyone would listen to what he says, and everyone would do what he says. Not a single person at that company would be friends with Ron DeSantis, the boss. He doesn't connect. He's not a Mr. Person type of personality. You know what, to a degree, I think he kind of hides behind that. Hey, I got a lot of work to do. Let's get started. Let's get going. That way he doesn't have to connect. Recently, in fact, I think it was just yesterday, in Iowa, they brought out the DeSantis campaign brought out Casey DeSantis. She got behind the podium and did exactly what Ron DeSantis does. Spoke about policy, spoke about ideas, spoke about the future. And my very first impression was, boy, if you could take Casey DeSantis and Ron DeSantis and put them together, you'd have a winning candidate, not for 2024, but for 2028. The contrast between Casey DeSantis and the way she presents exactly the same thing that Ron DeSantis does is something that they can use to their benefit. They're going to connect with people doing that. But, and here's a big caution, they better use her very sparingly, because the contrast between the two is so stark. I mean, you want to do what Casey DeSantis says? You want to listen to what she has to say? If she were your boss, you would respect her. You would come to her for advice, and you'd want to be her friend. And Ron just doesn't have that. I don't know what the deal is, but I do have personal experience seeing it. I saw it in action, and when it happened, I thought, gee, that's just strange. And then I didn't think much of it. But since this has become a real issue, I was invited to a conference a while back. It was a fairly intimate gathering. It was only maybe 200, possibly 300 at the most. Error on the side of caution, let's say 300 people were there. I was actually seated right in the middle of the conference room. I was right in front of the podium, maybe 20, 25 feet. And, there were lots of speakers, but Ron DeSantis was the keynote speaker. And eventually he arrived, and it kind of went like this. He came in. All the security was around. He came in, went straight to the podium, gave a fantastic speech. Fantastic speech. Delivered it just like he would, any other message behind the podium. He's comfortable back there. He made eye contact with me a number of times, and I'm not trying to brag. Okay, that's not the point of me bringing this up. The reason I'm bringing it up is if you are trying to bring in the audience, you got to use that technique, and you have to spread it around. And for some reason or another, he just felt comfortable talking to me. And whenever he got a little bit, you could tell he was droning a little bit or whatever, eye contact with me. I don't know why. I'm not bragging. It's a technique used for public speaking. I got all that. He doesn't know me from Adam. He doesn't even know my name. But it happened. Lots of eye contact. Anyway, some advice, spread it around. Make eye contact with lots of people in the audience. That's how you do that. You don't pick out 2 or 3 and concentrate on them. I know that's hard to, if that's your habit, that's your habit, but you're going to have to break it. It's part of connecting. Anyway, back to the story of what happened at this conference. So he comes in, he gives his speech. It's a fantastic speech. Then he goes ahead and sits down on the stage with the host and answers some questions. All that was very, very good. Everything was fine. The questions were right on target. They were pointed questions. He had great answers for those questions. When it was all over, Ron DeSantis and the host stood up, shook hands, and spoke a little bit off mic. I don't think it lasted more than 60 seconds, but for those 60 seconds, you could see it. It was in Ron DeSantis' face. He wanted to be anywhere else but on that stage at that moment. He was ready. He was done with the speech. He was done with the question and answers. He's ready to go. He wants to leave. And you don't connect that way. You just don't connect with the people that you're talking with on stage, and you don't connect with your audience. I guarantee you, if that same conference had Donald Trump in it, there would be handshakes and waves and conversations prior to the speech, and there would be connecting with the audience after the speech. That's personality. That's just, you either have it or you don't, and I guess Ron DeSantis doesn't. It's going to be a problem for him on the national level because somebody in, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, hasn't benefited from the policies and the activities and the governorship of Ron DeSantis. They got their own problems. They got to deal with whatever it is that their locality has going on, and they have to deal with their politicians. You have to connect with strangers. You have to make them feel like, you know what? I'd rather have a beer with you than a beer with somebody else. In Donald Trump's, I don't think in Donald Trump's case, I don't think he drinks, so it would be a Diet Coke or a Diet Pepsi. I think he drinks Diet Coke. Anyway, who would you rather have a Diet Coke with? Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump? If you had that Diet Coke with Ron DeSantis, you would be sitting at the table, the two of you would be looking at each other, and you'd be drinking your Diet Cokes. If you were having that Diet Coke with Donald Trump, you'd be sitting at the table, you'd be looking at each other, you'd be talking, you'd be engaging, and when he got up from the table, you'd both still have full glasses of Diet Coke. That's the difference. And it's got to be addressed somehow, or Ron DeSantis is not going to be able to ascend to that higher level. He's got some time. In my opinion, 2024 is not his to have. That's another subject. We'll get into that in another video. I think, again, let me caution the DeSantis campaign. Casey DeSantis is a huge, huge benefit, a huge, just a plus that and a factor to this campaign that I think you can't dismiss on any level. In fact, if she were the candidate, I think you'd probably have a much easier time getting her into the White House. Again, in 2028, not 2024. But, wow, I'll tell you what. I think there's room there for her if she wants it. Anyway, I'm a Casey DeSantis fan. I'm a Ron DeSantis fan. And I am an Elon Musk fan, even though he had another Rudd. What can I say? Until probably next week. This is Route 28, making right turns on US 1 because nobody wants to be wrong. Let me know what you think. If you like what you hear on this channel, please subscribe. Don't forget to hit that like button. Again, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you next week. And don't forget, for more on this and many other topics, please visit David's blog. The link is in the description.